Aye. I remember once I went to Maidstone prison. That was a weird move, you know. Maidstone prison, it saw a history to me. Because when I was young, my uncle Ralph and my auntie Kitty, they lived round the corner from Maidstone prison. And Ralph actually was a prison officer. Not many people knew that, but I had an uncle who was a prison officer, Ralph Gleeson, and he worked in Maidstone prison. As it turned out, later on I found out he worked with the nonces in the laundry, you know. Anyway, I ended up in Maidstone prison, and because I was there, he banned Kitty from coming to see me because it was too shameful, and he didn't allow her to come and visit me, which gave me the hump. So I sent some messages out with some of the officers and that, purposely knowing that it was winding them up, because once I was on the run, I was hiding out down Maidstone in his house. And the police were looking for me for firearms back up in Scotland, and I was down Maidstone hiding out. And when they found out, they really, really took offence, and they never forgave me for it. So once I ended up in Maidstone prison, you can imagine. But by this time, he was retired, so it didn't have any operational security risks. So I was not moved over that. I was allowed to stay, I suppose. So anyway, I was in Maidstone prison, and it's an old sort of older prison, new but old Victorian prison, but with new parts of it, and an old wall. You could actually walk up the wall; it was slanted and that. And sure enough, people used to be flinging things over all the time, and people used to climb over and get out and get back in at certain times. Break out and break back in the period of exercise. Not many people were aware of that, but it has been done. It was done, and the tennis balls coming over full of the drugs and everything, and all different parts of it. Very corrupt prison. It was a ruthless prison, also full of drugs, full of skullduggery, and full of them and us. A lot of them and us. I don't know how many of the TV rooms were burnt down and everything. And indeed, I was put on closed visits here, accused of bringing in large scale quantities of cannabis through the visits, and I was put on closed visits. And the closed visits was just like a wee stone hut in the middle of the prison, surrounded by all the wings, and your visitor would come in one side of it and it would all be glass, and they were on the other side, but you were sort of locked in. So that was interesting. Like, the ice cube come up. We used to have the sort of stoop shows and all that away, and they used to get up to all sorts, as you could imagine, being deprived of the female body, but you could gaze upon it in all its entirety in the strip cells. And some people get put on closed visits just to have that privilege. And I had it a few times in the sentence. I was on closed visits, especially up in Shorts prison in Scotland. I had two different women that used to come up each week and used to do striptease sort of things for me. We shouldn't be telling people that, I'll get into trouble. But nonetheless, that happened. And going back to Maidstone prison, it was a very radical prison, a very disruptive prison, and it war with the screws. And I was fighting my case. I didn't accept a day. Every time a door opened, I expected to go home. I asked them, badgered them, told them constantly I was innocent. And so I was always actually plotting, I was always sabotaging, I was at war with them. But my war was a different. I wasn't against the system for the system as it is. I was against being in prison in the first place. I shouldn't have been in prison. I didn't kill Mark. So I want to go home. Enough's enough. And I've had enough. Know what I mean? The joke's over. But it wasn't a joke. It was my life. Every moment of every second of every minute of every day, they kept me suffering and in misery for a crime I did not do. Told I'd never be released. Constantly battered down. We would never ever be released. Ever. I was to die in prison, and die they wanted, and tried to make it so twice when they tried to kill me. Maidstone prison in the war, it was real. Coming from the dungeons as I did to there, they didn't want me there, but they had to accept me there. And so as soon as you arrive in the prison, they're against you straight away, so you set off in the wrong foot. So it is a war, and they say I'm destructive and denial, can't come to terms with my guilt and all that. So I was sabotaging setting up all sorts of skullduggery moves that would cause the maximum damage, and that's how I spent my time. And I was actually waiting trial for. I got caught with 60 gram in Gartree prison, and they took us to the Crown Court, charged us with it. And I remember I was in court, and the judge was, "Oh, you're charged with that," and I'm like, "Here, I'll tell you here, judge. I'm in front of you because I made a joke." He's like, "What?" I said, "I made a joke." I said, "The governor asked me where I got the substances that I was caught with, the 60 gram, and I told him. I said, just before the visit, I said, I had an accident with my bowels and I shit myself. I said, so I had to very quickly run and get a new pair of boxer shorts, but I had none clean, so I borrowed a pair off one of the lads who wishes to remain anonymous, I must stress. But quickly I put them boxer shorts on and I rushed off to the visit. And after the visit, I said I was strip searched. And as I was taking off the boxers and handing them to the officer, as told to do so, 60 gram of cannabis fell out and bounced on the floor. And they said it was in the boxer shorts. Now, do you imagine my surprise as I told the governor? I said that the 60 grams was secreted in the lining of the boxer shorts that innocently I borrowed through the mistake of the bills I had earlier before the visit. I said I was flabbergasted, but I understood and respected the efficiency of the officers finding it. And I thanked them for that, because I would have felt obliged to consume what was found if I found it in the cell. So I didn't. So anyway, they got it and they took it off me and marched me down the dungeons, and they gave me a 10-week investigation where they kept me locked up 24 hours on GOAD, good order and discipline, and got the police in, resulting in me being charged and wasting all this money. Look how they got me to court today. They sealed off the whole town centre, which they did. They had the whole town centre sealed off to take me in, to get in front of the magistrates. So as I got in front of the Crown Court, I was told the judges, and the judge, well, he bawled out the governor, absolutely bawled him out, and said, what am I meant to do with a man like this? He's doing 30 years on top of life. There's nothing I can do. This is an internal matter, and it should remain internal. And it was because of Jack Straw, with a new initiative to punish drug dealers. I was one of the first ones that they targeted, you see, to try and subdue and suppress the amount of drugs that was getting into the prisons. As I said, it's been there all along. He's just work on what's around, so it's not just one person's fault, it's the market, it's everyone's at it, screws and all. But Jack Straw put this initiative into the system, and I was one of the ones who swept up in it. Anyway, ended up, the judge flung it out, what can he do? Anyway, so I'm took back to Maidstone prison. I always remember it, and as we come back to Maidstone prison, we're driving in. I'm took down to the dungeons from now, what's happening here? So, and there I was, back kicked in the dungeon. Next day, find out I've got charges. I'm accused of burning the wing down. Because the day before, there was a lot of fires in the prison that night, and the whole wing was set alight at the roof through the vents. Someone actually put a couple of devices down the vents, and when they went off, it escalated into an inferno because all the dust and all the dry stuff, apparently it's been there for a long time, Maidstone prison, and it caught a light and it turned the whole fucking roof went aflame. And the whole wing had to spend the night in the chapel. They couldn't put us back in the main, so everyone was in the chapel. It was a massive security nightmare. And the listeners' room got burnt out as well. And that got burnt out because the people who are listeners, which is the Samaritans, they go around and they deal with people who are suicidal and depressed and that. But they were going round and using the information they got off the vulnerable lads against them, and bullying them and all that. So we found that out, so we put a stop to that. So that did get burnt out, allegedly. I used to just watch it as being an innocent man. Anyway, I was put down the block and blamed for this, and I wasn't happy about it at all. You know what I mean? I come back from trial and it just got it flung out basically because there's nothing they could do, and now I'm down under investigation for burning the prison down, the wing. I think it was Kent wing. Down. It was absolutely mad, and that was when Big Bob Winston Salcott was there. He was a friend of mine. So that last time I met Winston, you know, his big beard, you know, his protest beard. Fantastic man, Winston was, you know. But Maidstone Prison, it was a riot of subversion, a riot of sabotage, a riot of indulgence. Everyone was up to something, and it was a violent prison. That was a strange prison because there was sort of a sea cat wing on it as well, which changed the dynamics because people are getting out and coming back, so they're filling their ass up to the brim with drugs. You know what I mean? So the market was good. So there was a lot of money to be made, or indulgence, you know, or both, depending what you enjoyed. In Maidstone prison, man, it was. I remember like the non-swings there, and they used to face us, and we used to actually at night time we would make up catapults up, and we have nuts, and we'd be firing the catapults out the window at them and pinning them, trying to hit them, smashing the windows, and they were doing the same to us. It was like the OK Corral some nights, you know what I mean? And I remember we made this wee device up, a little bomb, wee tube bomb out of Galveston tube, and we had it thousands and thousands and thousands of shaved matches and bits of metal and all sorts of things, and we've got it wrapped around. We made this wee device up, and it had a wee fuse, and it had a 4 second fuse. So when you light it and you fling it, 4 seconds later it would explode. And we got it down to 4 seconds because we were up in the fours, and as the nonsies were walking by from the workshops to go to the wing, they had to pass our wing, you know, and there was always everyone out the window shouting and things like that. So what we were going to do, allegedly, is light this fuse, fling it out, and as it just gets to head level, it would explode, and hopefully it would have blown a few of the nonces up. This is a true story, and I remember watching it, and I seen it get lit, and the fuse, and it was flung out the window, and whoosh, and it's going down. But someone shouted, or the fuse was, I think it was a second too long, and it bounced off the ground before it exploded, which saved them. You know what I mean? But they're the sort of things people got up to. You know what I mean? It was serious things. You know what I mean? And once we worked in the laundry, because that's where we ended up working. The nonces used to do that, but then they put the normal people in there. They used to get the forensic the fluorescent lights, ground it in the dust, the glass, ground it in the dust, and put it over the sheets and things like that as you iron them into it and send it back to their wings. And we used to fucking wipe our ass with the towels and pillowcases and everything. We were naughty, you know what I mean, and send them back, pissing on their clothes and all that. Pure war. You know what I mean? And that's what it was like. It was that sort of prison and that sort of mentality.